Hello and welcome to Food for Thought for this week. It's Mark Lockridge here, pastor of New Life Fellowship in Letterkenny and Milford Reformed Presbyterian Church. It's great to have you with us. Have you ever stopped to think about the human body? It's an incredible piece of design. I studied architecture before becoming a minister, and design fascinates me, and few things more so than the human body. From the moment of conception, how it grows and develops into this fully functioning masterpiece of flesh and bone, beginning with bones, soft enough to flex in the birth process, but strong enough to provide structure and protection. And they're going to eventually harden into something stronger than concrete. And engineers study bone to see how we can make our concrete even stronger and yet lighter. Or consider how we get oxygen into our system. In the womb, we extract it from the mother's placenta-enriched blood. But outside the womb, we extract it from the air around us. And yet the switchover between those two happens automatically as birth happens. Utterly incredible. If you think of a factory that has got System A running and it's switching to System B, it will often have a period of overlap, parallel running, while System A runs and System B gets phased in to make sure that there's no dropout. But yet, with this process on which life itself depends, there it is, an automatic switchover. Incredible piece of design. Or imagine setting designers the following specification for a pump. It's got to have a 75-year life expectancy. It will go through at least 2.5 billion cycles. No external maintenance or lubrication is allowed. The output has to vary between 1/4 horsepower and then right up to 1 horsepower bursts. Its pumping capacity has to be that of 2,000 gallons per day, or 55 million gallons over those 75 years. The valves have to operate between 4,000 to 5,000 times an hour. Again, no maintenance, no external lubrication. Oh yes, and it's not allowed to weigh more than 300 grams. Yet that's what your heart is, the human heart, a masterpiece of design. Or think of designing a material which is elastic and yet durable. Think of how hard that is. We all know of elastic materials, and yet with light and with heat, they perish, they crack, they become brittle. Yet what about your skin? Add into that design specification that is to be waterproof and yet breathable. It's got to be heat reactive. There's got to be great sensitivity in some parts of this material, and yet really tough in others. Oh yes, and add in that it's got to be self-repairing. And then let's have an inbuilt indicator to show the health of the body. Think of how your skin moves through a rainbow of colours to warn you of dangers. Red for infection, yellow for jaundice, green for whenever toxins are present, blue when there's a lack of oxygen, white when we're anemic. Not to mention various rashes or colouring produced by specific illnesses. The whole optical system fascinates me, from the lens in this little capsule with the little muscles that shape and focus the lens, to the retina, to the optic nerve, to how the brain interprets images and builds a catalogue of imagery, how our two eyes allow for depth perception and allow us to calculate trajectories of moving objects, speed and distance. An incredible piece of design. Or take it down to the cellular level. Michael Denton, a biologist, writes, if we imagine magnifying a cell until it's large enough to cover London or New York, you discover a world of supreme technology and bewildering complexity. You know, Charles Darwin thought the cell would be remarkably simple. What we've found as we've investigated is exactly the opposite. That things haven't got simpler, they've got far more complicated. Michael Denton continues, he says, what we would be witnessing would be an object resembling an immense automated factory. A factory larger than a city and carrying out almost as many unique functions as all the manufacturing activities of man on Earth. On Earth, not just in New York or London. However, It would be a factory which would have one capacity not equalled in any of our own most advanced machines. And here it is, for it would be capable of replicating its entire structure within a matter of a few hours. It can copy itself. And there's 75 trillion of these cells in your body. You know, there's a verse in the Bible in Psalm 139 which reads, I will praise you because I am fearfully and wonderfully made. Have a look at yourself and consider that you're an incredible piece of design. And let that thought take you to the designer himself. For when it comes to our hearts, the writer of another book in the Bible says, He, that's God, has placed eternity in our hearts. Amazing as our bodies are, they age and they break down, but something in us rebels against this, doesn't it? We have a gut instinct that death is an unfitting conclusion to the wonder of what a human is. And that gut instinct is right. We are made for more. And that's why God came into the world, in the person of Jesus Christ, to overcome death. And the problem that leads to death, that's our sin, so that we could have life and have it abundantly. A promise of being given a new life after our death here, and a life that goes on forever. So stop and marvel at the wonder of the human body, but let it take you to the God who made you, and who would take on flesh and blood himself, and shed that blood, so that you could be forgiven and made new and have a life that will never end. Thanks for listening. And if you want to get in touch, drop me an email, mark@newlifefellowship.ie, and have a great week.